The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 2 minutes. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of H.J.Res 2, a balanced budget constitutional amendment, and I want to thank Chairman Goodlatte for the incredible work he's done on this issue. Mr. Speaker, families across America have to balance their budgets, and it's time Washington does the same thing. I was the mayor of my local city before I came here. 6 balanced budgets with surpluses each and every year. 48 states, including my home state of Tennessee, require a balanced budget by law. What makes Washington any different? Members of Congress are required to balance their office budgets or pay for any overages themselves. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? 435 balanced budgets. The rhetoric we hear from the other side is that the reason we have magic budget deficits, tax cuts. Let's talk about an inconvenient truth. Revenues collected by the federal government have never been higher in the history of this country. Revenue has increased nearly 8% annually over the last 7 years. And, Mr. Speaker, the federal government doesn't need to spend 8% more revenue each and every year. What we need to do is rein in our spending. Spending is the problem. The other point we've heard in the recent omnibus spending bill, another sign that Congress lacks seriousness about addressing spending, well, discretionary at or about 2.4% over the last 14 years annualized. That's a lot more than many of us would like, but we basically have held this spending in check. The problem is our ballooning mandatory programs that account for 70 cents of every dollar we spend annually is a problem. Mandatory spending, which includes pensions, food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and others, is growing at 7.5% per year. Medicare and Social Security both face a crisis in the not-too-distant future, and Congress has to make hard choices about how to secure these programs for future generations. I'm convinced, however, that the only way Congress will make those hard choices is if we're forced to. Both parties bear responsibility for our annual budget deficits, but people have a choice here today. The last time we had a chance to vote on a similar resolution was 2011, and the only thing that's changed since then is that our debt and deficits have exploded further. It's time that we in Congress make the hard decision and require Washington to abide by the same budget before it's too late and before we can't right the ship, the same thing that families do every single week and month of the year. I strongly support H.J.Res 2, and I encourage all of my colleagues to do the same and help start the process of bringing some fiscal responsibility back to Washington. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.